almost 2,000 years since that first fateful Friday. We come to hear a story of pain, of betrayal, of darkness, of grief. This is not a happy day. We sit with that, and it is important that we do so. For it is only when we sit with our grief and sit with our darkness that we have hope of a new day. Let us unite our hearts in prayer. We come to this space with hearts that are heavy with the memory of such horror. We come to this place knowing that we continue in many and varied ways to crucify, and we seek forgiveness. We come knowing the great love that changed the world and continues to change it even now. May our hearts be open, our spirits fed, and our lives transformed. In the gospel named for Mark, it is written, "When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out, 'Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani,' which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some of the bystanders heard it, and they said, "Listen, he is calling for Elijah." And then someone ran and filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait. Let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down." And then Jesus gave out a loud cry and breathed his last. The curtain of the temple was torn from top to bottom, and the centurion stood facing him. He saw that in this way Jesus breathed his last, and then he declared, "Truly, this is the Son of God."
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord?
That question is like a sword in my side. For yes, I was there. I was there, and I could not stop it. At one point, Jesus called me Peter, the rock. On this day, I was anything but. There had been many signs leading up to that fateful day that only became visible after the fact. As they say, hindsight is 20/20. Well, now I can see it clearly. Tensions had been rising for weeks, and there had been whispers that the religious and political authorities had just about enough of Jesus. They wanted him stopped. Jesus knew that his voice and his presence were causing fear. And several times, he told us plainly that he would suffer for his ministry, and that death would be the price. But we did not listen. We could not hear those words. When we gathered for Passover, he would tell us again, even said that one of us would betray him. Now that is where he got it wrong. It wasn't just one. Sure, Judas did the actual handing over, but I fell asleep in the garden when he needed me most. Then, I denied even knowing him, not once, but 3 times. And in the end, we all fled, just watching from the sidelines as he was tried, convicted, and crucified. So yes, I was there. And no, I did not literally crucify him, but with each denial, with each betrayal, by my inaction, I allowed took part in his crucifixion.
Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree?
The shouts still ring in my ears. Crucify him! Crucify him! The sound was deafening. I tried to shout louder. Many of us did, but our voices were drowned out. Then came the pronouncement from Pilate that condemned Jesus to death, and my heart broke. I remembered what it was like to be standing in the presence of such anger, waiting for the stones to be thrown. Only in my darkest hour, Jesus saved me from death. And here I was, unable to even offer words of comfort. I followed as closely as possible as he walked the streets, bearing the cross on his shoulders, blood and sweat dripping from his head and back where they had flogged him. And on Golgotha, they bound him to that same cross and drove nails through his hands and feet. Was I there, you ask? Yes, I was there, and bore witness to this portrayal of humanity at its worst.
Were you there when the sun refused to shine?
I stood beside my son through his whole ministry. No amount of brutality could stop me now from being at his side. When he was born, a light shone in the skies as never before, leading many to witness his humble birth. When he accepted the divine's call in the waters of the Jordan that day, the clouds parted, the sun shone, and he was claimed beloved. Light and love were what he brought into this broken and hurting world. There were many times over the years when he was called to account. The religious authorities tried to catch him breaking the laws of Moses. And the political authorities tried to catch him breaking the laws of the land, but always he was proven to be right and just. On this day, there would be no room for justification. On this day, there would be no return to normal. For a brief period, the sun's light failed and darkness covered the land. Was I there, you ask? Yes, I was there. And as all of creation mourned, and as darkness overtook us, I knew that life would never be the same. With his last breath, he released his spirit, and a sword pierced my soul.
Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Were you there when they pierced him in the side? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble. Tremble, tremble. Were you there when they pierced him in the side?
I served in the Roman Guard. And I would like to tell you that I did not participate in any of the events of that day, but I cannot. Ensuring that the decree of crucifixion was carried out was part of my job. Crucifixion was the preferred method of judgment for those who had committed crimes against the state. When Jesus arrived at Golgotha, I expected the day to be basically the same as any other day. A few spectators milling about, and then nothing. But this day was different. There were crowds of people. Many of them were visibly distraught. Many of them were there to vent their own anger. Some mockingly shouted at Jesus to save himself if he truly was the Messiah. Even the soldiers mocked him by casting lots for his clothes. As the day was also the day of preparation, it was decreed that no bodies could be left hanging on the cross after death. Their legs were to be broken and they were to be taken down. This was also part of my job. As I approached Jesus, I could tell that he was already dead. But there was something inside me that just would not allow me to break his legs. So, I took my spear and I pierced his side. And as the water and blood poured out from the wound, my heart instantly broke open. And I knew at that moment that Jesus truly was the man he said he was. Was I there that day, you ask? Yes. It was by my hand that his blood was spilled.
Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?
I am Joseph of Arimathea, and I sat on the council that granted judgment, past judgment, on Jesus. I did not agree, but felt powerless in the face of such animosity. My attempts at pleading for mercy fell on deaf ears and hard hearts. In the end, the majority won, and Jesus was sentenced to death. I watched as it all unfurled, the shouting crowds, the flogging and beating, the walk through the streets to Golgotha. And there I stood as witness to his execution. All the while, I knew deep in my heart that Jesus was real, and that the world would suffer from his loss. Once the deed was completed, I could not bear to see his body simply discarded. So I took a risk, and it could have gone very badly. I could find myself being charged with treason or condemned for being a follower of Jesus. But whatever the consequences, I knew what I must do. So I went to Pilate and I asked for Jesus' body. To my surprise, and I admit relief, my request was granted. So, was I there, you ask? Was I there? Yes. I removed his body from the cross. I wrapped him in a linen cloth and laid him in a tomb.
What have we done? By our inaction, by our complacency, by our fear, by our uncertainty, we have continued to crucify the one who brings us light and life. May we be forgiven.